Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you tonight. Private equity investors continue to bet big on healthcare in India. Temasek buys 59% stake in Manipal Hospitals, valuing it at $5 billion in what is the largest private equity deal in the sector. The value of PE deals in healthcare since the start of the pandemic is nearly $16 billion. Sensex and Nifty end in the green for the sixth day, but the gains are limited as financial stocks underperform. Crude oil prices remain firm, with Brent hovering around $85 a barrel. City gas distributors lower prices after the cabinet accepts most of the Kirit Parikh panel's recommendations. The centre has imposed a ceiling and a floor price for gas produced by ONGC and Oil India, with an annual escalation clause. Private weather forecaster SkyMet predicts a below normal monsoon this year. This could pose risks to food prices and the economy. SkyMet also warns that the likelihood of an El Nino is now increasing. Reliance Retail, Adani Group, Jindal Power, WH Smith are among the 49 suitors for bankrupt Future Retail. This is the second time bids were invited to the company since the insolvency proceedings were initiated nearly a year ago. Government sources deny media reports of India halting FTA talks with the UK over the recent pro-Khalistan protests outside the Indian High Commission in London. A spokesperson for the UK Department of Business says both nations are committed to delivering an ambitious and mutually beneficial FTA, adding that the latest round of talks were last held last month. Union Home Minister Amit Shah visits border areas in Arunachal Pradesh after China's attempts last week to rename places in the state and claim sovereignty. The Home Minister says no one can encroach on India's territory. Chinese Foreign Ministry says Shah's visit is not conducive to peace and tranquility off the border.
The first step towards it is the intensification of political dialogue on the highest level, and this visit is the first step towards this.
Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Minister called on India to play a greater role at the G20 to end Russia's invasion, urges India to invite Zelensky for the G20 summit. This is the first visit by Ukrainian minister to India since the start of the war. Meta's global head of safety is betting on artificial intelligence to combat fake news and bullying. Also calls for global rules to curb misinformation, promises more specific tools for content creators in India. That's an exclusive. The Sensex and the Nifty gained for the sixth day, marking the longest winning streak in 4 months. However, the gains were limited as financial stocks underperformed. The Nifty Bank, though, ended over 0.5% lower, ending the 7-day gaining streak that we've seen. Mid-caps fared better than the blue chips today. But the big story from Deal Street, Singapore-based private equity giant Temasek has agreed to buy 59% stake in Manipal Hospitals, valuing it at $5 billion. Now, Temasek will invest another $2 billion, making it the largest private equity deal in India's healthcare space. In fact, private equity players have flocked to the sector, with several billion-dollar deals being inked just in the last few years. Advent, GIC, TPG, Shanghai Fosun, and many others now have a sizable presence in India's healthcare industry. The value of PE deals in healthcare since the start of the pandemic is nearly $16 billion. So what makes healthcare so attractive for investors? Ekta Batra is standing by to take us through the numbers. Ekta.
Thanks for that. Well, in what is one of the largest deals which have taken place in a pan-India hospital company, Singapore-based PE fund Temasek is buying controlling stake in India's second largest hospital chain, Manipal Hospitals, for over $2 billion. Temasek already owns 18% stake in the hospital and will be buying an additional 41% from promoters and others for around 16,400 crores. Manipal, with a bed count of around 8,300 and 29 hospitals in 16 cities, is India's second largest pan-India player after Apollo Hospitals. The company, which is looking to ramp up its bed count around 10,500 in 2 years, has seen revenues more than double to around 4,000 crores and margins expand to around 24% in FY22, valuing the deal at around 10 times FY22 sales. Now, talking about valuations, in the past 5 years, valuations have risen as much as 8x in the hospital space. 2018, for example, saw two pan-Indian hospital companies sell stake, Fortis and Max Health. Fortis, interestingly, which was once bid for by Manipal and sold to IHH, another non-Indian promoter, for a valuation of around 13,000 crores, currently has a market cap which is almost 50% higher. In the same year, KKR picked up majority stake in Max Health for a valuation of just around 4,265 crores. The current market cap is over 42,000 crores. KKR also exited Max with a 5x gain last year. Valuations for Indian hospitals, experts say, really pivoted during COVID-19, which benefited, for example, from better improved long-term structural drivers such as better medical awareness, insurance penetration post the pandemic, and medical tourism reverting back to normal. And Manipal's valuations have just about almost doubled in the past 2 years. Is a good indication of this interest. In 2021, National Investment Infra Fund or NIIF invested around 2,100 crores for around 8 to 9% stake in the company, valuing it at around 25 to 26,000 crores, which has now almost doubled to around 40,000 odd crores. And this is reflected in hospital stocks too, which have risen anywhere between 25 to even close to 100% since the start of FY22. However, while hospital stocks have risen and valuations have expanded, based on the 10 times FY22 market cap to sales valuation ascribed to the Manipal-Temasek deal, a quick comparative check indicates there might just be room for further up move for a few of the current listed hospitals. Lastly, this deal also points to a trend of PE funds doing control deals in the Indian healthcare space. Besides KKR Max, the other recent examples include the Ontario Teachers, Sterling Hospitals Upward PE, and the Samara Marengo platform as well.
Ekta, many thanks for joining us. That is the big deal in the healthcare space. Meanwhile, Ranjan Pai of Manipal Hospital spoke with CNBC TV 18. He says they sold stake to Temasek in order to pare down debt of the holding company and will hold 30% after the transaction. He also added that Manipal Hospitals won't sell any further stake in the hospital business. Now, healthcare and wellness influencers may soon have to disclose their qualifications before giving out any advice. In an interview to Business Standard, the Consumer Affairs Secretary Rohit Kumar Singh has said the influencers calling a food or medicine good or bad must disclose if they're qualified to do so. He added that the government does not want consumers to be taken for a ride. With COVID cases rising in India, the government has approved the inclusion of Serum Institute's Covovax as a booster dose for adults. The booster dose is expected to be available on the CoWIN portal in a few days, and it will be priced at 225 rupees a dose. After suffering from a heat wave and untimely rains, the Indian agri sector may be staring at a below normal monsoon. Weather forecaster SkyMet has predicted rainfall at 94% with only a 25% chance of a normal monsoon and zero probability of excess rains. This is the forecast as of today. Of the 4 months in monsoon, the month of June has the highest chances of experiencing normal rainfall. According to SkyMet, the likelihood of the El Nino is increasing, which is an indicator of a weaker monsoon.
We expect that monsoon will be 94% of long period average, that is 868.6 mm. And El Nino will be evolving and it will be much stronger in second half of monsoon. June will be, we can say, around 99% of LPA. And as we progress further during monsoon, the August and September will have the impact of El Nino in greater way.
Well, that is the update on the monsoon. Now, shares of Tata Motors surging almost 6% on the back of strong Jaguar Land Rover sales in the last quarter. JLR wholesale sales increased almost 20% quarter-on-quarter. Global sales surging 8% year-on-year, the stock higher by 5.5%. In a bid to boost the production of green hydrogen fuel, the government plans to provide incentives worth 13,000 crore rupees to the producers of green hydrogen. Sources telling CNBC TV 18 that the first tranche of the green hydrogen transition scheme will begin this quarter. The second tranche will begin in the subsequent quarter with incentives at 30 rupees per kg and worth 10% of the cost. The government expects the new scheme to build a production capacity of 3.6 million tons of green hydrogen in the next 3 years. In the commodity market, crude oil prices remain firm after major oil producers decided to cut production in what was a surprise move early last week. Tighter supplies have balanced concerns about weakening global growth. Brent staying above the $85 a barrel mark. In fact, the Reserve Bank of India's latest inflation forecast had assumed crude oil price of $85 a barrel. That's down from the $95 it had assumed in February. So this is going to be something that the RBI will have to watch closely too. Your cooking gas or CNG may have become cheaper. City gas distributors have lowered prices after the Union Cabinet accepted most of the Kirit Parikh panel's recommendations. The centre has fixed ceiling and floor prices for gas produced by ONGC and Oil India. These will be applicable for the first 5 years with an annual escalation clause.
The APM prices recommendations that we had made were following that it should be fixed within a floor and a ceiling price. And that is accepted by the government. The same floor and ceiling we had suggested, $4 per million BTU and $6.5 per million BTU. I think the consumers will are getting cheaper price for the PNG and CNG supplies. Second measure the government has taken is that it has provided 20% additional money or price increase for gas that is produced by ONGC and OIL.
Well, that is Kirit Parikh, the man heading the Kirit Parikh panel. The recommendations now accepted by the Union Cabinet. Sonal Bhutra standing by with how these recommendations will work. Sonal, explain the math to us and the implications for consumers.
Well, yes, this has come as a material relief to the gas users as the government has accepted Kirit Parikh committee recommendations and has amended as to why gas is and how gas is priced in the country. So let's understand some basics first. India consumes around 150 to 160 MMSCMD of gas totally, out of which 50% or 80 MMSCMD is produced in the country and rest is imported. Out of this, 77 to 78% is the gas under APM or administered price mechanism and rest is non-APM. Out of the total production, 83% is produced by ONGC and Oil India combined and rest is basically private players or JVs. So the change that has come about is in the APM gas pricing. Let's first talk about what was the gas pricing scenario earlier. APM gas prices, they were basically decided on basis of a formula, which is the weighted average price of 4 global benchmarks, that is US Henry Hub, Canada-based Alberta gas, the UK-based NBP and Russian gas. It was revised every 6 months and it was set at $8.57 per MMBTU as per the last revision. Now there has been a change to that. Gas prices will now be announced every 1 month. The prices will be pegged at 10% of international price of Indian crude basket, and to protect the interest of consumers, there is a ceiling to this. The gas prices, that is $6.50 per MMBTU and the floor is at $4 per MMBTU, which is for the benefit of producers. Now it's important to note that ceiling will be maintained for FY24 and FY25, post which this will see an addition of $0.25 per MMBTU every year. Gas from non-nomination blocks of Oil and ONGC will have 20% premium to APM prices, and there is no change in pricing regime for difficult fields or any LP blocks. Now, this change was brought about because of the way gas prices moved during the Russia-Ukraine war as the global supply of gas was impacted. This led to prices in Europe going up by 3 times, prices in the US touching new highs of $9 per MMBTU. This led to higher prices in India as well. And that is the reason why CNG prices in our own country and city shot up by 80%. So that is the kind of move that we saw in 2022 as well. Now let's move on. After talking about how CNG and PNG prices went up, that was the reason why the government went ahead and set up the Kirit Parikh committee. But with the new pricing regime change that has come in from here, we will see that the prices have been set at $9.16, that is April 1st to 7th. Post that it is at $7.92 per MMBTU. But again, the ceiling is at $6.50 per MMBTU. This has come in as a big relief to city gas distribution companies. IGL gets around 80% volumes from CNG and PNG segment, MGL at 87% and Gujarat Gas at 36%. So the first two tend to benefit the most. As a result of all this, there have been massive price cuts by all the players. MGL has cut CNG prices by 8 rupees, PNG by 5 rupees. We have seen Adani Total Gas cutting CNG prices by 8 rupees, PNG prices by 5 rupees. There's IGL which has cut prices by 6 rupees. GAIL Gas has cut prices by 6 to 7 rupees per kg, and this has come as a relief to consumers as well. But for producers like ONGC and Oil India, in the near term, there will be a hit to their realizations, with both of them seeing cuts of around 24% as for brokerages. But of course, in the longer term, it's a positive because of the floor. Brokerages are positive on the entire city gas distribution space. Jefferies has upgraded the EBITDA estimates by 6 to 20% for all the three companies. For GAIL, it will lead to a savings of 1100 crore rupees for LPG segment due to lower gas costs. Morgan Stanley says that not only city gas distribution companies, new pricing mechanism is a positive for producers as well and removes a multi-decade overhang on long-term returns. And CLSA says despite the price cuts, margins will be positive for MGL and IGL, and this takes discount of CNG versus diesel back to 30% and brings back the pricing power. Government's intent to assure $75 to $80 barrel realization also raises earnings predictability for ONGC and Oil India.
Sonal, many thanks for joining us. Tamil Nadu has passed the bill banning online gaming that involves gambling despite the centre's new IT rules. As per the bill, no supplier of online games can offer online gambling services or permit online gaming that would require the use of cash or other risks. The state government has said it will not revoke the ban despite the central government notifying new IT rules last week, which did not ban online gaming, only prohibited games that deal with real money and involve wagering. 49 entities, including Reliance Retail and Adani Group joint venture company, have submitted expressions of interest for the bankrupt Future Retail. Shilpa Ranipeta joins us now to tell us more about the prospective bidders. 49 of them, Shilpa.
Well, 49 entities have submitted an expression of interest for Future Retail, according to a list of eligible prospective resolution applicants that the company has released. Now, some of the notable names in this include Reliance Retail, Jindal Power, JC Flowers, UV Stressed Asset Management, WH Smith, and April Moon Retail. Now, April Moon Retail is a joint venture between Adani Airport Holdings and the Flamingo Group. Now, after Future Retail was admitted into insolvency proceedings in July last year, this is the second time that EOIs have been invited. The first time about 13 companies had submitted EOIs in November, and this also included companies like Reliance Retail and April Moon Retail, which have now submitted that again. But back in November, at the time, there were none of them had submitted resolution plans, even though the deadline for that had been extended twice. Now, as of March 2023, financial creditors have claimed dues worth 21,500 crores, and of this, about 19,000 crores worth of dues have been admitted. But remember, this is just the financial creditors. There are dues of operational creditors as well. And as things stand, the final list of prospective resolution applicants will be released on the 13th of April, and post that, the deadline for submitting resolution plans will be the 15th of May. Back to you.
Shilpa, many thanks for joining us. The Adani Group has hit at a report on its reliance on offshore funding. The group called a report by the Financial Times mendacious attempt to show the conglomerate in poor light. In an exchange filing, Adani has called the media report false and damaging and called on the publication to take it down from its website. According to the FT, analysis of India's FDI remittance statistics, offshore companies linked to the Adanis invested at least $2.6 billion in the group between 2017 and 2022. However, the Adani Group has said the article incorrectly mixed primary and secondary investments and also ignored a secondary transaction of $2 billion. The Supreme Court has called for a national policy on menstrual hygiene, including the distribution of free sanitary napkins to students from classes 6 to 12. The court has also asked states and union territories to submit details on the availability of girls' toilets and the supply of sanitary pads in schools. India and the UK have denied reports of India halting talks with the UK for a free trade agreement. British paper The Times had reported that the Indian government wouldn't proceed with the trade talks until the British government publicly condemned the recent pro-Khalistan protests in London. Parikshit Luthra standing by with more. Parikshit, where do the trade talks stand between India and the UK?
India-UK trade talks stalled because of pro-Khalistani protests outside the Indian embassy in the UK. Well, the recent protests may slow down negotiations, but there are other issues which are yet to be resolved and are sticking points in the talks. Both sides have concluded 8 rounds of negotiations. There was an earlier deadline to conclude talks by Diwali in October 2022 and then March 2023, but talks are yet to conclude and both sides are not fixing any further deadline as of now. Among the sticky points are UK's demands from India to reduce tariffs on Scotch whisky, automobiles, and the Indian industry's demand for higher mobility for professionals. Discussions have been closed on 13 out of 26 policy chapters. Another issue which may be delaying the deal is India's data protection bill, which is still to get parliamentary approval. UK wants clarity on digital laws and data localization regulations in India. Both sides are also yet to conclude talks on investor protection, which UK has demanded for its companies.
Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. In a sharp message to the Chinese over the Arunachal Pradesh dispute, Union Home Minister Amit Shah said, and I quote, "No one can encroach even a tip of a pin's worth of our land," end of quote. The Home Minister was speaking at the launch of the Vibrant Villages program in a village along the Indo-China border in Arunachal Pradesh. His visit to the state comes after China attempted to rename 11 places in the state and claim sovereignty. China's foreign ministry has termed Shah's visit as non-conducive to peace and tranquility of the border.
अरुणाचल का प्रदेश हो, लद्दाख का प्रदेश हो, कश्मीर हो या कोई भी प्रदेश हो, हम निश्चिंत होकर देश के मध्य भाग में, देश के उत्तरी भाग में सो रहे हैं। इसका कारण हमारे हिमवीर आईटीबीपी के जवान और हमारी थल सेना का पराक्रम और उनका त्याग और बलिदान है। सौ की सुई की नोक जितनी भूमि का भी अतिक्रमण कोई नहीं कर सकता, क्योंकि आईटीबीपी और भारतीय सेना यहां पर उपस्थित है।
The Home Minister in Arunachal Pradesh. We will head into a short break, but coming up next, Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Minister called on India to play a greater role at the G20 to end Russia's invasion. That and more when we return. Ukraine's first Deputy Foreign Minister is in India on a 4-day visit. It's the first visit by a Ukrainian minister since the war broke out. She told my colleague Parikshit Luthra that India must intensify political dialogue on the Ukraine issue at the highest level. Take a look.
India's global role, especially with regards to the presidency in G20, with regards to the influence in the global south and sharing experience for the global south and being a leading country for the Asian, African countries, is important to also not escape discussion about Ukraine. India should play a greater role globally, should play a greater role in Ukrainian issue, and we believe that the first step towards it is the intensification of political dialogue on the highest level, and this visit is the first step towards this.